My name's Sean. I'm from New Zealand. I moved here 8 years ago to get married. Unfortunately, that all fell to bits, and she took off with another person and left me stranded. Got an IVO out on me, which is an intervention order, which means I can't return home to my flat. And following that, police turning up to my job to keep serving the same IVO to me over and over again meant I lost my job. And then I found myself homeless on the street. And that happened about 6 to 8 months ago. Initially I was squatting in an abandoned building, but yeah, that got torn down, so straight to the street. Since being homeless, I've just kept myself busy. I've been getting the odd job here and there, but nothing of any great length of time that's meant that I can move forward and get out of the situation. It's just enough to survive. And I'm a sound tech by trade. I spent 30 years making music and composing, and I have a diploma and certificate of audio engineering and production. And I did, the last work I did of that was in August last year. I did sound design for 2 different plays at the Fringe Festival, which was here at the Arts Centre in Melbourne. The most difficult thing was I'm being made homeless. In other words, like turning up home to find the police waiting for me, telling me I can't return to my bedroom. It never happens at a time, that's convenient. It's always like 1 o'clock in the morning or something where you can't really ring people up and go, can I crash on the couch? So I did spend a couple of nights sleeping in parks until I made contact with people, because I sort of lost contact with a lot of people. As that's what happens when you're in a relationship, and friends sort of go by the wayside, and I was working quite a lot, didn't really keep up contact with people, but I've been very fortunate not to have to, touch wood, not to have to deal with anyone trying to kill me or anything like that. I have had a couple of weird situations though, like one night I think I'd been homeless for 2 or 3 weeks, and I was on a tram. I'd been up to North Melbourne to a service to have dinner, and I was catching the tram back, and I made friends with a sort of Israeli guy, and he suggested I come back, stay with him. And I went back to his place, which was right at the end of the line, the Bundoora Remit line, way the hell out in the middle of nowhere. He took me into his flat, then he proceeded to pull an AK-47 out of the roof and tell me what a really bad guy he was. And when he went to the toilet, I took off. I haven't seen him since, but I mentioned it to a couple of people, and they said, wow, it's you could have been killed. I've had a couple of shaky situations like that, but nothing that I've really thought about until later. I sort of thought later, wow, that was close. In the late 90s and early 2000s, I travelled through Europe touring. I did a lot of things called technivals, which are like 3-day parties, techno, drum and bass. I used to make drum and bass, well, I still do. And that was a pretty good period, because I managed to spend about 3 to 4 months travelling overseas for nothing. Like basically, they took care of accommodation, food, and I got a per diem to keep myself in food and stuff like that. And I managed to see quite a bit of Europe and the States doing that over a 5-year period. And then life took over. Another happy thing was birth of my son, who's now 29 years old. Yes, I'm old. And yeah, I don't know if I want to repeat of that, but to repeat travelling and playing music, which is what I love doing, yeah, that'd be good. My son, he lives in Nelson, New Zealand. He's got a family of his own, and he doesn't know I'm homeless. I've not told them. Yeah. I haven't told my family. I don't want them freaking out. They've got an idea. I'm just, I don't want to put them on the spot. It's sort of like, I'm a pretty resourceful person. I'm sure I can dig myself out of this situation. just by continuing to look for work. At the moment I'm doing sound for a documentary, but it's taking a very long time. It started just before Christmas, and I don't think it finishes until June. And I'm hoping through continuing to do that, and I've done sound for a couple of short films, I'm hoping the ball keeps rolling and I keep picking up sound work. I can play gigs, I have contacts for that, yeah. I basically, because I don't get Centrelink, because I'm a Kiwi and I haven't been here for a full 10 years, I don't get any help from the government at all. So I have to sit on the street and beg to make enough money to get a room at a hostel. Yeah, especially if it's cold. Otherwise, I'll find I've got a couple of spots I can sleep in out the back of restaurants and laneways in town, where they know I sleep there, and they're quite happy for me to do that, because I'm kind of like a guard dog. No one's going to be breaking in if someone's sleeping in front of the door. I usually sit in front of the lawn at the Arts Centre here in Melbourne. If anyone's got any work going, like paint the house, dig the garden, anything like that, I'm up for it. Just really need someone to take a chance and give me a go. I can be found here most afternoons and evenings, except Sunday because they have markets. Yeah, just come and say hi.